Welcome to our 85th podcast. Today we're talking about AI's impact on HR and specifically what happens when routine paperwork becomes fully automated. What's one thing you can do now to help HR professionals avoid getting bulldozed by AI? Keep listening to find out. Welcome to Harmonious Workplaces, a podcast about corporate culture, organizational change management, and workplace behavior. Harmonious Workplaces was started by independent consultants Rich Cruz, Ben Kleinman, and Cheryl Volpe to explore, challenge, and build on various organizational culture and change management concepts. It's a blend of theory and practice based on their personal and professional experiences working with companies of all sizes across various industries. If you own a business, lead a team, want new ideas about the corporate environment, or just want to listen to a group of consultants talking about how to make work more enjoyable, we invite you to sit back, relax, and dive in with us to Harmonious Workplaces. Hello, Harmonious Workplaces listeners. Welcome back to our podcast. As always, we're so glad to have you with us. I'm Rich Cruz, an organizational development consultant, joined by my co-host, Ben Kleinman. Hey, Ben, how are you?
Hey, everyone. Hey, Rich. How you doing?
Ben, it's Halloween time, and the robots are coming to get us.
What could be spookier than a future that's run by our robot overlords, right?
That's right. That's right. And to our AI overlords, we mean no disrespect. No. But this is
Exactly.
our topic today is artificial intelligence in human resources, and there's been a lot of talk about this, especially lately, right? What have you heard?
Yeah, it's kind of AI is really doing a great job in terms of automating a lot of things that are very templatized or structured documents that are easy to automate. You already see a lot of AI automating agents that you'd call on the phone or that you'd chat with online
Sure.
for help and things like that. And so I think the next thing that's coming is the anything automated in the world of back end processes. Think of HR, think of traditional sort of benefits paperwork or onboarding paperwork, offboarding paperwork, things like that,
Sure.
surveys, assessments, all of those things. Those will all be fully automated soon. Maybe not
Mm-hmm.
in the next year, maybe not in the next 3 years, but soon. And I think compounded with the generational shift in terms of just so much of the workforce in the US, at least retiring, aging out of the workforce, you're going to see a big change for the people who are left. And I don't know, and I'm not close enough to it to know a lot of the insider baseball there, but I feel like from what I've been seeing and reading, a lot of HR professionals are just not getting trained. They're not equipped. They're not really ready for that shift. It's
Sure.
partly a skills shift. It's partly a mindset shift. And it might be that the leaders are seeing this and starting to think about it, but it's already like most of the profession feels like it's too far behind the curve.
Yep. I get that. Yep.
Yeah, I'm
I
curious what you're
so
seeing, and we can dig in.
Well, there is a lot of talk about I think it's the agentic workforce, right? Where different types of artificial intelligence are out there. We're still used to generative, right? With those Chat GPT and Gemini and
Hmm.
those where it creates something from patterns. But then there's also this agentic type where it's automating these tasks, right? Based on rules and based on pattern recognition, it can automate certain things, like you said, like chatbots, based on certain
Right,
types of language and all that,
right.
right? And so, I mean, we've seen that this has replaced certain categories of workers, right? In fact, I think very recently, even Amazon had a very big layoff that was mentioned. Things like uh, ETL, which is like extract, transform, and load, where you're moving data from one thing to another, has been replaced by uh, artificial intelligence that can, and it's not fully like we still have people who do that type of work, but a large part of the workload of that is moved over.
Yeah.
Um,
And what's interesting to me there is that a lot of times when you think about AI replacing people, it's kind of frontline folks that might be at a call center in terms of the
right.
agents that will field a phone call when you're calling a help desk for something.
Sure.
Some of the ETL folks, the extract, transform, load folks, those are fairly well paid white collar type jobs.
Hmm.
That's a lot of software developers and technical folks will have grown into in a career, and
Right.
those are some of the earlier white collar jobs that are probably getting replaced.
Hmm.
So
Yep. Yep.
that's a notable difference there.
Yeah. Well, if you look at like the philosophy of um, Microsoft work, I think it's Microsoft Workforce Solutions, right? So the idea there is that AI, artificial intelligence, becomes a kind of a co-pilot to a
Or
human-centered
actually a
workplace.
co-pilot, since that's what they've
Yeah,
named
well,
it.
that's exactly right. Yes, yes, they're ChatGPT informed
Right,
co-pilot product, which is
right.
now embedded in their entire ecosystem. Where and Gemini 2 has embedded
Hmm.
their own AI. PMI, the Project Management Institute, they have their own agents, right, that they've put together. An agent being functional a functional I don't want to say it's just a chatbot, but it's a um, dedicated artificial intelligence to a specific business function, right? So it can be automation or it can be generative, but it's informed
With
by for that specific function.
and from a a use perspective, value add perspective, would you see that PMI, the Project Management Institute agent, being something like where you as a person in HR, or you as a person, a project manager could say, go build me this project plan, or add a resource to this project plan and tell me how much it's going to cost and how much it's going to shorten my time to delivery.
Right. Yep. In fact,
Wow. That's
I
pretty
just
cool.
well, I just finished. PMI actually has a free if anybody's
Who needs
interested.
project
Right.
managers anymore?
Well, that's just it. So they have a free training at their website, right, on the use of artificial intelligence
Wow.
in project management. So I just completed that. Like I said, it's free. It's very interesting. And yes, I mean there are things that when I went through training, I've done like 100 something hours of PMI training before, right? And it always got me the like forward backward pass, if anybody's familiar with that in scheduling, right?
Yeah.
But you can actually have the artificial intelligence do a lot of those calculations for you. So
Uh-huh.
you still have to make the decisions and use the critical thinking and discover what needs to happen and do all that planning. But if you want to look for the critical path, if you want to look for those things that are going to be arguably the mundane tasks or the ones that could where accuracy because of your poor math skills. This guy right here,
Uh-huh.
right?
Despite
uh
going to the University of Chicago.
Yeah, well, I went for art, man. uh, Art and apparently astrophysics. That I don't know how, whatever. But um, yeah, the use of artificial intelligence as again as a co-pilot. That's what their AI model there is intended to be, right?
Yeah.
It's not to replace a project manager because they can't. There's a lot of people centered
Right.
aspects to it, right? Yeah.
Right. And that's the take home message that I was starting to get from a lot of the folks that I've been talking to in the world of HR that are a little closer to HR than I am, is this idea that in an ideal situation, the AI components are augmenting the human aspect of it. They're taking
Yeah.
away a lot of those rote, routine, mundane, sort of templatized things so that the human can focus on the things that humans tend to do a little bit better. At least they seem to do better right now than a lot of the AI tools that are out there in terms of building empathy with coworkers, helping coworkers design their career trajectory, really focusing on the strategic value of human capital in terms of what are we doing with our workforce? Is this the right size, the right contours, the right skill
Yeah,
sets for right now? But then also in 3 to 5 years, are we planning for that? Are we helping people transition into that? Are we managing the culture of the organization? Are we managing conflicts effectively and all that kind of stuff? So it's really
sure.
those kinds of things. If the AI can let people lean into that, then the HR professionals are going to be thinking a lot more people focused, a lot more strategic focused. It's going to be great. But that's
Yep,
where I'm seeing a lot of folks say that a lot of the average Joe HR professionals are not anywhere close to being ready for that or equipped for that,
sure,
which I think
sure.
is scary.
Yeah, yeah, and sometimes there's even just a reticence to give it a try, because they're afraid of job security or whatever, right? So I've actually experienced a little of that in a recent engagement, right, where um, there's this organizational effectiveness that we analysis that was doing, and um, HR was like, "Well, we have to be careful about what information we're sharing and all this and that, right?" But ultimately, it was oh boy, we're are we using the right structures? Are we using the right this or that? And there, I think there was a little bit of fear and somewhat change resistance on some
Hmm.
of that front, right?
Hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And
However, I ended up using Copilot to some extent to analyze their structure, right? Which had
really,
a hierarchical, but also a functional and regional structure, that
yeah.
was interesting, and to be able to parse it out from a pattern recognition standpoint, right? Be able to parse it out and then put into their, what the organization is looking to try to do, right? From a goals perspective, really, some of the insights that came out of that from the artificial intelligence, from again pattern recognition, right? Here's our current structure. Here's what we're trying to accomplish. How can we maybe change the org design even
Hmm.
in the interim to handle this new change that's going to be happening, right? From a change readiness standpoint, was remarkable and saved so much time and effort.
Wow, that's cool. So the
Yeah.
AI tool that you were using was able to help you map that future state.
A little bit, and a few different iterations of
Hmm.
if this then that, right?
Yeah,
So
and
there was
scenario planning stuff.
right. I
That's
mean, we
great.
still needed the human aspect of
Right.
uh, there are people who have been here for a long time, or there are people that we need to upskill to get to this level or whatever, right? So we certainly needed to have some empathy for what's happening and not just
Hmm. Hmm.
um,
Yeah,
you
certainly
know,
not
hey,
all resources are the same. Not all
right,
uh, you know people working 40 hours a week are the same. You each
right.
has a different skill set. Each person has a different sense of the organization and all of that.
Yeah, yeah.
Yeah.
So we certainly needed to filter that through a human lens, right?
Hmm.
But
Hmm.
but the insights were interesting and extremely helpful. So
That's great.
um, we're gonna take a quick break, Ben. When we come back, let's talk about some of the ways that HR is using artificial intelligence, and then
Yeah,
maybe springboard off of that.
sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back. At Harmonious Workplaces, we believe work should provide purpose, satisfaction, and growth. We empower people to thrive by fostering environments where individuals can find meaning in their work and organizations can succeed through thoughtful, well executed strategies. We're committed to making work better for the people who do it and the leaders who guide them. To discover how harmonious workplaces can impact your organization, Visit www.harmoniousworkplaces.com and book a free 30-minute information session with one of our consultants today. Again, that's www.harmoniousworkplaces.com. And we're back. So, Ben, we're talking about HR, AI, acronyms of human resources and artificial intelligence for those who don't know. But
Yeah, right,
you know,
right.
some of the ways I used a little bit. I used a little bit of AI to prepare for this. Right, used Consensus, which, if anybody doesn't know, is um, it's a way of pulling in uh, scholarly research
Okay.
based on whatever prompt you put in there, right? And so some of the key applications of artificial intelligence and human resources have been recruitment and talent acquisition, performance management and development, administrative efficiency, and employee engagement. So thoughts on any of that from your perspective, then?
I think it's all right for complete or almost complete outsourcing to AI. I think that if you asked some of our prior guests who are a lot closer to
Right.
HR than I am, certainly, or that live in the HR and HR adjacent spaces, I think a lot of them would tell you that AI is already part and parcel of so many of their services or tools that they're offering as
Oh yeah.
consultants or as agencies that support and assist an internal HR function. And so if you talk to Katie Thomas, who's all about assessments and candidate assessments, current employee assessments, I think she would tell you that AI is in a lot of that work that she does,
Sure.
and that she's using it to help um, broaden the ability of people to assess candidates, or broaden the ability of people to assess what a current employee's capabilities are, where they might
Hmm.
want to learn, depending upon where they want to go in the business, things like that.
Sure.
So there's that kind of thing. And I was just reading, there was a case study about, I think it was Unilever. So Unilever was, they're a massive consumer product goods
Conglomerate. Yeah. Yeah.
conglomerate. I mean, they make everything from food to dish soap and everything in between. And they were using HR, their HR was using AI in a pilot to essentially truncate time to hiring from
Hmm.
4 months to 4 weeks. So a 75% reduction. And then they've rolled
Okay.
that out globally. And one of the things that they've found, to your point about how AI can help, is that they've also, in addition to reducing the time to hiring and saving costs, apparently they've increased candidate satisfaction and saved a lot of time in terms of going through all these interviews and in the hiring process and all that kind of stuff. But one of the things that I really liked was that they increased the diversity of their hires. So underrepresented candidates were increased by 16%. And I think that's because the AI was removing a lot of bias, or at least that's their hypothesis, is that the AI
Sure.
tool was removing a lot of filters that a human might have in terms of, is this person qualified, or is this person even a potential that we'd want to bring in to interview? I think that the AI tools help to do that. One of the things that to me seemed a little bit weird, I guess, just because it's not something I grew up with, was this idea of gamified assessments or game based assessments to evaluate candidates. And apparently, this case study seemed to think that that was helpful. It created a low pressure and
Hmm.
inclusive way to evaluate soft skills, and it helped improve the candidate experience. Maybe I'm old fuddy duddy, but I don't know that doing a gamified interview with a computer would help me and my candidate experience.
I don't know,
But
Ben.
I'm not probably their target.
Yeah, yeah. I think that kind of maybe, I don't know if that's a generational thing, if that's a personal preference thing. I don't, that's interesting because I too would be like, I don't know how I would feel about that challenge. I mean, I've certainly in my time, in the last few years, even, I've gone through assessments that were, cognitive, like the predictive index has a cognitive test that is, about, pattern recognition, numerical sequences, visualization, what's the next thing in this sequence,
And
or
you've had to do those
uh,
as part of your interview process?
oh yeah, yeah, for
Wow.
sure. Oh yeah, a lot of companies continue to use those, and have been using them for years. I mean, at least since
Goodness gracious.
2019, 2018, somewhere in there. Yeah. So,
And how does the well, I have a another jump the shark moment, if you will
oh,
permit me.
jump the shark. Yes, go ahead, man.
It's that
Go ahead,
time
Bonzi.
on the Harmonious Workplaces podcast for little Benny to jump the shark. Doo, doo, doo. I was just thinking about how AI and all this gamification of the candidate assessment stuff back in the day, the games, the video games, you had Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man, you had Galaxia or Galaga, basically Centipede, those kinds of things.
Pitfall.
Maybe Tetris.
Uh
Is
huh.
if you could gamify the hiring process or the candidate assessment process so that essentially I could play an old video game, that might be very different than me talking to a Max Headroom type
Oh
of
man.
assessor so that I could feel more comfortable and it could be a more enjoyable process.
So are you saying that if you were like in a hiring process and you had this persona of Hubert and the snake hit you and
Yes,
knocked you off, you would feel much better about the
yes.
rejection
Or if
process?
I were if I got kicked out of the hiring process because Donkey Kong chucked a barrel at me, that would land a little. Or if I was Frogger and I got hit by a bus, that would probably land a little bit better than me than a computer telling me I was unqualified because I couldn't guess the
Unqualified.
next
Yeah,
number in the
right.
Fibonacci sequence.
Right. uh yeah, Ben. I don't disagree with you. There was a some feeling
We're
of,
gonna have a
oh yeah, it was
really
my fault.
long show notes because of all these video games that nobody's gonna have heard of.
Yeah, no, that's right. That's right. Although they're all available online now. You could go and find those. But well, there are now um AI chatbots that are video, video avatars that
Hmm.
will ask you questions, interact with you, and and
Oh,
you're getting evaluated through
I
this,
see.
and it's using
So,
pattern
well,
recognition and
Notebook
all that
LM is
stuff.
pretty well known right now for being able to take any kind of prompt or source material and create essentially two avatars going at each other in a
Oh
sort of
yeah,
podcast
sure.
format or discussion format. And I'm wondering if that's the kind of thing that you're thinking about in terms of the AI avatar given a set of corporate documents would be quote unquote interviewing you as the candidate and seeing how you respond, how you react, trying to assess your soft skills, things like that.
Yeah, well, I mean, it can act as your first round or second round phone screen.
Yeah,
And um, it's very, just personal experience. It's very personable. And
really.
yes, and
Oh wow.
it's but this here's the thing. There's criticism among some, particularly among candidates. So it's interesting that you mentioned that the interview process, or the recruiting process, sentiment is higher, or was reported higher from Unilever, right? But uh, among some people that I've talked with in fairly recent past, right, the idea that there might be some bias and fairness built into the system because of the inputs that were given, right? Data privacy and security, we've seen leaks.
Mm-hmm.
Chat
Mm-hmm.
ChatGPT. I don't remember how long ago it was, but there was a brief time where like everything was open and available through search. It's like, that's
Wow.
crazy. Yeah. So there's some, some thoughts about that.
Right. Well,
Um,
and also I think ChatGPT in particular, and probably other models as well, have come under fire for being a little bit too agreeable and almost sycophantic. And I think that there's
right.
probably not a lot to be gained from an interview that's overly friendly in that way. If you're trying to assess someone's fit for culture and they have no ability to stand up for themselves or no ability to enter into healthy discussions, maybe a little bit of
Hmm.
healthy conflict or healthy discord, I think
Right.
that doesn't serve your company very well in the long run. And not to say that
Sure.
you want an AI agent that's going to come and just get into it with you, but you'd think that that would be part of the assessment process. I mean, every interview that I've ever had, they ask you about how tell us about a difficult time that you had at work, or tell us about a challenging situation at work, and how did you handle
Right.
that?
Right. Yep.
You know,
Although, yeah, that the those video or other chatbots will ask you those kinds of questions, and then it'll take your response as a transcript, and sometimes it'll interact with you and ask a follow up question, or sometimes it will just take that and say thank you for your response, and sometimes reiterate it, just so that you can validate that that's your response, and then it's given then then the on the back end, right? The fit to the requirements is given to the recruiter, right?
uh-huh,
So
uh-huh.
if you have a bad interview, the question is, does that, like, if your response wasn't what you wanted to give, is that taking you out of the running, because of
It
that,
would have done in the past if I
it would
if
have
I
done in the
was in an
past.
in-person interview and I kind of fumbled a question, or if I didn't give the answer that seemed to meet the criteria of whoever was interviewing me.
Right.
That was the end of that.
That's true. Yep. Yep. So there is this, as much as we don't trust the bots, is it the same or better or worse than a human, having the same
I don't know.
experience. And but that I
As
think,
long as I can be
like,
knocking out aliens while I'm interviewing, I think that's sort
there
of
you
irrelevant.
go. Right on. Right
Hey,
on.
hey,
Well, the Society of Human Resources Management, right? They SHRM, right? They have had um, they've had some influence on the use of artificial intelligence. In fact, they do have training. I think they even have a certification, if I'm not mistaken,
uh-huh.
now,
On how to use
uh,
AI
on
in
how to,
HR.
yeah,
Oh, good.
yeah. They also
I
have
mean, there are all
an
kinds of.
AI.
Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
I was just going to say they have an AI in the workplace playbook that if
Oh,
you're a member, you can
yeah.
access,
Okay.
and other playbooks, including how to use AI prompts within HR, prompts for employee communications, for onboarding, so and then there's a an ethical guidelines
Mm-hmm.
uh,
Mm-hmm.
document that they've put together, right? So, um, and like I said, I think there is even a certification course or like some, micro credential or something that you can go through, which I think is, I mean, it's helpful, uh, but I think we still have a lot to learn.
Yeah, yeah, I think that's great. Sounds like early days then for at least for the stuff that Sherm is putting out.
Sure.
Um,
Eh, but it changes, Ben. It changes like almost every day, every
it does
week,
for sure.
something.
It's
Yeah.
amazing how swift this particular technology is changing. I don't think
Right.
I've seen anything evolve this quick, and a lot of us thought that the internet when that first came through, or the ability to do everything on a mobile. through an app, that all seemed to happen very quickly. But this is just orders of magnitude faster. So it's
Yeah, yeah,
it's got to be
absolutely.
head spinning for people in a space that's getting disrupted so quickly.
Yep,
How fast
yep,
that's happening.
yeah. Let's do this, Ben. Let's take one more quick break. When we come back, let's talk about maybe a little bit about the future work.
Sounds good.
All right, we'll be right back.
In a world where leadership needs clarity and action, and HR gets left out of the loop, one hermit crab steps in to save the day, only to be shut down by management. From the creators of Hermie the HR Hermit Crab and the Harmonious Workplaces podcast comes a new shell shocking adventure, Out of the Loop into the Fire, or HR Hung Out to Dry. This book blends workplace satire with evidence based lessons, reminding leaders that culture, trust, and people strategy don't exist as extras. They form the foundation of lasting success. Whether you work as an HR professional, a leader, or just someone who has survived a few too many staff meetings, Hermes stories will make you laugh, think, and maybe even change the way you see your workplace. Purchase Hermie the HR Hermit Crab, Out of the Loop, Into the Fire, or HR Hung Out to Dry, now available on Amazon and Ingram Spark. Shop now at harmoniousworkplaces.com/Hermie HR Crab. That's harmoniousworkplaces.com/Hermie HR Crab.
Huh, they changed her Fred.
And we're back. All right, Ben. The future is now. So let's talk about AI and HR and all of that, and put a
Yeah.
bow on this episode.
Like we were saying before, a lot of the folks that I've talked to are seeing this idea that AI is here and is significantly disrupting how HR operates and what HR capabilities are going to evolve to in terms of um, the people that will survive in a career in HR will be the ones that can become more empathetic, that can lean into the human to human interactions, that can lean into how to shepherd healthy corporate culture through all the current changes and then whatever comes down the road that will
Mm-hmm.
help people understand how to boost their own emotional intelligence, boost their own resilience to changes and those kinds of things. The ones that aren't able to make that shift, either in terms of mindset or in terms of skill set, will quickly find themselves out of a job. And
That makes sense. Yeah.
that's been pretty consistent with a lot of the HR folks that I've talked to. A lot of them said that HR just as a function is changing. Or in the words of one of them, which I loved because it references our friend Hermie, the HR hermit crab. HR isn't dying; it's molting. The shell of administration is cracking, revealing a culture that thrives on ambiguity, analytics, and authentic connection.
I love that. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay. It's so we're growing. We got to change our shell and
We got to change our shell.
get
Yeah,
yeah, right
it's
on.
time to find a new shell.
Yep.
But it's gonna
But you're going
be
to show your soft underbelly in the process, though. While you're, I
there.
mean,
You go. Everybody
yeah.
loves belly rubs.
Well, so
I
yeah,
mean,
I think you're right, Ben, that there's this, the people who are empathetic and can get those softer skills, I don't like that terminology, but you know what I'm saying, right?
right.
Those human centric skills.
I've heard a lot of
But
people say those skills should not be called soft skills. That
mm,
they should be just skills or
skills,
required
yeah,
leadership skills or people skills or things like that.
right.
The idea of soft is, I think, people are kind of moving away from that terminology,
Yeah,
and rightly so. In the same way that we've talked about how leaders should be very well versed in the idea of change and psychological safety, and the idea that years ago leaders had to learn this idea of emotional intelligence. That's now table stakes for anyone, I think, who's
sure.
being hired into a leadership role. One would be wanting to assess how their emotional intelligence is vis-a-vis their ability to sort of run a function. I think
Right.
all of the stuff around, is this person well versed in change? Is this person well versed in psychological safety and managing, all of those things? Those are must have skills at this point. I think that
Hmm.
you're absolutely right. The idea that they're sort of soft or, nice to haves, not anymore.
Yeah. Right. Right. But I think from a technical point of view, though, to I think those table stakes are also where you have to be able to have some level of understanding of using the co-pilots, right? And not just co-pilot as the product, but
Right, some sort of
artificial
AI
intelligence.
tool or tools
Right.
to
Right.
help you do what you do, so that you can focus on all those more personal interactions, the strategic visioning, those kinds of things.
Yeah. And ACMP, the Association of Change Management Professionals, says that like some resistance. I'm giving a talk later this week on overcoming change resistance. And one of the things that they say is that resistance stems from unreadiness, right? Of not being ready, right? So I think there are. How do I put this? Those who, how do I put this, are anxious about their job security, may want to invest. It doesn't take it really doesn't take money, but to invest in your own self, professional development by taking a course like the one like I mentioned from PMI.
There's
Google
a lot
has
of
a
tools
workplace
out
where
there where for people
yeah,
to learn about AI in, anything from basic AI to programming or all sorts of stuff in between,
right.
and you can get a good sense of how AI is going to impact your particular world.
Yep. Yep. And there's plenty of, you talked about gamification. There are plenty of, um, yeah, games that are out there within the, the different prompts and stuff like that, where you're able to create things and become comfortable with it, where it can be fun. I think you do have to go into it with a certain level of openness to a new experience,
Hmm.
right?
Yeah, for sure.
Which is hard for some
For sure.
people.
Yeah.
We've talked about personalities and where on the ocean, openness, conscientiousness, extroversion, agreeableness, and neuroticism. That when the openness is low and the neuroticism is high, we're probably not so. You know, um,
It's going to be
yeah,
tough sailing.
that's right. Yeah, exactly. Right. But
Yeah. Wow. That's yeah, that's good. I like that.
confront the fear and shake hands with the robot. That's
Well, just enjoy your conversation with Mr. Pac-Man or Miss Pac-Man.
right on.
You have
Right
your
on.
evaluation and training session.
Yeah. Yeah.
No, I
Donkey
think
Kong is not going to throw an actual
no, it's a
barrel at
virtual
you.
barrel. Right.
That's right.
Exactly.
Yes.
Exactly.
Cool.
No, it's true. It's true.
Yeah.
I think that so. I think, Rich, maybe where we have left it or we've got to so far is this idea that in the best case that people will be using AI to take away a lot of the routine and, mundane things, so
Hmm.
that humans can do a lot of the human to human interactions that make a workplace feel rewarding, or that make
Yeah.
a interpersonal reaction feel rewarding. And we just had a guest, Rachel Shaw, and she was saying that Harvard has a study where they were tracking human happiness since the 30s and found that human connection is the greatest indicator of happiness and health, and that in an ideal world, that's where the HR function leans in, and that's where the HR professionals can really lean in and help make that a much more cohesive, stronger, happier, harmonious workplace by doing that and leaving a lot
Sure.
of that sort of transactional stuff to the AI tools. And that would be lovely. I would love to see that.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, we've seen technology. That's what technology has been about. And technology can be anything, right? It can
Hmm.
be. It doesn't have. It's not necessarily digital, right? It's anything
Oh yeah,
that we
printing
use as
press
tool,
was technology.
right? And instead of monks sitting there scribing on
On
lambskin,
parchment, lambskin.
yeah,
Yeah.
lambskin, right? So they had to stretch it. No, I went through a class
Did
on
you really? You went
medieval.
through monk
Yeah,
training?
well, it was medieval. What is it? It was called the Gothic Cathedral. It was at U Chicago, and we learned about how they created manuscripts using lambskin and all that stuff. And it was
And
very interesting.
did you learn how to do some of the lettering and all the
No, I
artwork
didn't
on
learn.
the sides of the page and stuff like that?
Just how they did the illuminations and stuff like that, right? But we didn't
That's
do
so
it
cool.
ourselves.
Illuminated manuscript of Hermie the HR Hermit Crab.
Oh,
Coming
maybe that's
soon.
something. Yeah, there you go. But we don't. I mean, but moving from that to, like you said, the block press, right? The printing press. What to just it took away that illumination component, right? But it put books in the hands of the masses, right? And I mean, we've seen other technological advances. This is kind of this. I see it as very much
Mhm.
the same thing, right? We're taking things that we were using people and like multiple different uh, Word documents or Excel files or these tools that we were kind of making ourselves or parsing together and um, streamline it to have something else
Mhm.
take care of those things for us. That's really that agentic part of the
Yeah.
workforce that we're talking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So it's uncomfortable for sure for people who that hey, I've learned this. It's almost become like a craft, right? Of like a because it's a very manual kind of tactile process of doing some of that work.
Right.
So
Right.
so that's a skill set that arguably were may atrophy, but
Well, it'll
there's
change,
there's
yeah.
other skills.
And
Yeah,
Rachel was quick to point out that this will be uncomfortable for many HR folks who are very comfortable and used to and maybe very good at that sort of transactional component of human resources, and that it's going to be hard for some of them to transition into this idea of being more strategic or more people centric.
yeah,
That maybe is a place where us change managers and learning and development professionals and org development professionals and industrial organizational psychologists can lean in and help move that
that's
along
right.
in a way
Yeah,
that's healthy and productive and um, brings people on that journey.
for sure. Yep, right on. All right, Ben. Well, that takes us to the end here.
There you
So
go.
you
We've
want?
solved AI and HR.
Oh boy, I think more discussion on this is gonna definitely come into play, man.
I imagine it will.
Yeah, I mean it. Look, every conversation that I've ever been in the last 2 years probably has come down to somebody mentioning artificial intelligence.
Yeah.
So we're going to still see this, in our podcast as well as
Yeah.
everything else. So.
Our next podcast will just basically be two avatars of talking heads.
Like you said, Notebook LM could be doing that for
I'm
us. But
sure. Yeah.
yeah, yeah. But all right. Well, thanks for joining us. And until we meet again, make change your friend. Thanks for listening to Harmonious Workplaces. You can find Harmonious Workplaces on LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, Spotify, Amazon, Apple, and other streaming platforms. We'd love any feedback on whatever channel you find us on. Please rate, like, and share our podcast with your network, and remember to add Harmonious Workplaces to your list of favorites to get notified about each new episode. To contact Rich or Cheryl, please visit www.workbalanceconsulting.com to connect with Ben, find him on LinkedIn, or visit at www.harborsidestrategy.com.